guys know how I am. So I've got to make sure that he has the most productive, most efficient life that he possibly can have. Like I know for sure he's going to be healed. Like I know 100%. But at the same time, I know it's a process for everything, and the journey, you gotta appreciate the journey. So through the journey with my son, particularly, I've learned a lot about autism. I'll have definitions for it so you can follow what I'm saying. Um, but I'm just being candid and open on this interview, and then everything else start flowing in more like a documentary structure. But once I found out he was on the spectrum, or had autism, I didn't know how to approach it, so I started doing research. That's the biggest thing that I wanted to do, research. And the first thing I was researching is um, autism and medication, because my goal off top was not to have my son on medication, just because of the side effects and everything else. So I started looking into like Western, or just looking at traditional Eastern, like Eastern medication, look at traditional African medication, just holistic medication. So that took me down one. That took me down one path, and then starting to look at other ways that we can look into making them whole, quote unquote whole. So we looked into, and when I said we, at that time, me and his mom was working closer together. So when I was looking at stuff like the holistic health and stuff, she was looking at, I guess, unorthodox approaches healing autism. But at that time, I was thinking if he, go that process where like it was a magnetic something like he actually went inside this MRI type thing, and it was supposed to read his magnetic chemistry. I can't remember exactly how they worded it, but that didn't work. I mean, it cost a lot. It didn't work. But again, it was something that I had to try. But even on the things that are failed measures, they still became useful just because I can tell other parents what worked and what didn't work. So as years passed by, and not even necessarily a year, because once we figured out he had autism, we then qualified for some services. So when kids are diagnosed early, this is why it's important. When they're diagnosed early, they're qualified for services up until the age of 3. I'll go ahead and add the names of the services right below the caption a bit. Those services are useful because it helps the kid and help the parents both to get the child ready for school. Ideally, the goal is for them to be in the least restricted environment as possible, which is LRE, least restricted environment. A lot of goals that parents have is having their kids in traditional day classes. You don't want them in. You want to be in with the general population. So that was my goal, right off top. After finding out my son has autism, how is it? How is it going to affect him? Growing up, is he going to be in special need classes for all his life? It ended up happening that way for him. At least not all his life, but throughout his grammar school, middle school, and now in high school. But I'm not going to claim that. I do believe he's going to graduate from college with a graduation degree, and not from high school, which is ironic. This is why you got to follow this thread for the next couple of years, so you can see it happening. But once finding out that he was on the spectrum with autism, I realized that he's not going to be, or he may not be in the traditional classes. So we start learning about IEPs and which are individual educational plans. I got really good at listening to individual educational plans because the way they set it up, the parents really supposed to have a lot of say when it comes to how the kids are taught, and that just does not happen. It really doesn't happen. So I remember one specific example. So my son, he's extremely active in sports. He's still does a lot of ecolalia, which is like he repeats. If I ask him to go to the bathroom, he'll say, "Yeah, I want to go to the bathroom." He will never just say, "Dad, I want to go to the bathroom," or never just initiate the conversation. I have to initiate the conversation to kind of get a response from the bathroom. Are you hungry, etc. All right. So with that being said, one day, and actually this happened over a span of maybe 2 weeks. And it was a summertime around this time, about 6 or 7 years ago. So we were on the Alameda, the base. So on the base in Alameda, they have living areas, but it's a old base, so most of the base is not active. So I used to take my son on bike rides there, and he ride. I mean, everything else like you wouldn't even be able to tell like he's on the spectrum. Um, he's socially awkward. I mean, but physically he's not awkward. Some kids that's on the spectrum, like they're not coordinated, like they walk clumsy. He's not like that. So on the bike, this one particular day, I'm riding on the bike. We're riding bikes together, and I'm noticing his conversation is more in depth, even though he's not initiating the conversation. Like when I start talking to him, we're having a longer conversation, and there's social reciprocity there, so we're going back and forth. Yeah, there was only maybe 2 or 3 exchanges, but it was better than before. So maybe day 2, day 3 later, we're riding a bike, and this particular day he wanted to listen to some music. So while riding a bike, um, I don't know for the iPod that I had at that time, but it was probably an MP3 player, and I gave him the MP3 player with the two headphones. But I made him only put one headphone in, so of course he can hear me and hear my instructions. Um, and that was mainly the main reason, so he can be alert. So I noticed that it was almost like an experiment, I guess. Now looking back in hindsight, but I noticed that when he was riding his bicycle and had the headphones, he was more alert and even more socially engaged than the prior day. So a few days passed later. So I'm like, okay, I might be onto something. So we were on the base, riding a bicycle. He had his headphones on, one headphone in. I ended up giving him, it was either a sucker or maybe like a blow pop or one of those little icy that's in a little ices in the stick. I can't remember what it was, but I do remember that he had something in his mouth, that one headphone, and he was moving. I found that that's the most ever that he spoke to me, or we had a social interaction back and forth that may have lasted for about 30 seconds to a minute, which is huge for someone that's considered nonverbal on the spectrum. So what I found, and of course this is anecdotal, so it just worked for we don't know, but I know it worked for my son. That the more of his senses are being used, the more quote normal he seems to be. So in that example, when he was riding a bike, that kind of satisfied the motion. I saw him actually moving the the headphones being it was like an audio satisfaction. They was able to hear some music, and then of course it was music that he already recognized. So it may have been something with that, with the similarity of the music that he already knew. And then also when he had the sucker or the ice pop, whatever was in his mouth, of course the taste can go go a long ways. It can also be a tactile thing, so he's touching the icy or the stick. But either or way, during that interaction, that's the most that I've noticed that he was socially engaged. He was really there. Had better eye to eye connection. So I noted that, and like I said, it happened in the summer. So I noted that, and I brought that up to the teacher for the next IEP. I was like, no, what I found, and at that time he was getting completely distracted. So each time like somebody would pass by or something, he would reach out for him. At that time, he couldn't say what he was on his mind, so sometimes he would spit on other kids, which was horrible. Which got him kicked out of other schools prior to this last school. But yeah, that school was to the teacher during the IEP that I'm thinking that, and the IEP team, I was telling them about the experiment of him riding a bike and how it improved his social engagement. So I offered to, maybe bring in like a retaining wall, or maybe even create like a small cubicle, bring a stationary bike in. They have the stationary bikes that you can actually put a book down, so he can actually look at the assignments while he's on the stationary bike. And I was like, he can have his headphones. they completely denied my request. And not knowing what I know now, um, we just let it go. Um, and that's, again, another reason now, looking back in hindsight, why I feel like it's very important for us to know not only our resources that we have, but our rights too. And this is why I'm doing autism. Stay tuned.